I'm Claudia. I'm a self-proclaimed bookworm. My boyfriend, not so much. So I started summarizing entire books for him. Dramatic plot twists, romantic betrayals, magical quests, all of it. Basically, he gets the story without reading a single page. And now I'm doing the same for you. Welcome to The Whole Story, the channel where I read the book and then tell you the whole story, literally. Fantasy, romance, literary fiction. If it has yearning, magic, or emotional damage, I've got you covered. I'll tell you the whole story in 30 minutes or less, spoilers included. Yes, I will tell you who dies, who cries, and who should have just gone to therapy. So, if you like books, but you don't have the time to read all of them, or you just want to know what happens without the emotional labor, hit subscribe and let's write some endings together. Yeah, because life's too short to read 700 pages of slow burn, unless you're into it. I kinda am. Today we're going to talk about The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. There you go. It is a thriller mystery book, and it follows the story of Alicia Berenson and Theo Faber. And just to let you know, this is a thriller mystery, so there is a plot twist, obviously, and I will tell you the whole story, so I'll tell you what the plot twist is. So if there's any chance that you want to read the book for yourself and you want to be kept in the dark, please stop now. This is your last warning, because I'll just keep going the whole way and I'll tell you everything. So the book kind of has different types of chapters. You know, there's some chapters where it's Alicia's diary, then there's Theo at work, and then there's Theo at home as well. So it kind of jumps perspective between the two of them. We get introduced to Alicia. She's a painter, she's an artist, and she is starting this diary. Her husband, Gabriel, he recommended that she should start something like a diary or a journal to keep track of her thoughts, you know, and you can see she has some dark thoughts sometimes and everything, but she's very focused on keeping the diary a happy place. So she's not going to talk about anything that is bad. And then we get introduced to Theo. And Theo Faber, he's a psychotherapist, and he's the one telling the story, and he's the one telling the story of Alicia. And it's a very interesting story because 6 years ago, Alicia murdered her husband, Gabriel. And you're like, what do you mean? We just met Alicia and Gabriel in the journal chapter and they seemed very much in love. Well, the plot thickens. Theo is telling us the story of how one day Alicia and Gabriel were at home and the neighbor heard some shots, and the police showed up and they entered the house and they found Gabriel tied to a chair with wires around his wrists and ankles, and 5 shots through his head. So basically his whole brain was, destroyed, and splashed. His head was destroyed. And Alicia was standing in front of him with a rifle on the floor. There was a knife, and she had cut her wrists, and she was about to die. But they saved her, they apprehended her, and they put her on trial, of course, because it was very clear that she's the guilty person in this crime, and she does not say a word. From that moment on, she does not speak at all. So this kind of made this domestic crime turn into national news, and everyone became really invested on what happened. Like, is she guilty? Is she not? And then, of course, everyone thinks that she's guilty, and the fact that she doesn't talk, she doesn't say a single word since the moment that the police shows up, it just really cements her guilt. She is found guilty, but a doctor, Diomedes, comes forward and says that she must be mad because the fact that she's in shock and all of this, it makes sense. She should not go to jail. She should go to mental institution. So that's what happens. They end up sending her to a mental institution called The Grove. And Theo Faber, he's been very much, not obsessed, but very interested in this story. As a psychotherapist, he's really interested in the psyche, what takes people to go from normal to shock, and how they deal with trauma. And as he read the whole story, he became increasingly interested in Alicia. It also helped that as a painter, one of the first things she did when she was in the hospital was paint a piece called Alcestis, in which is a self-portrait where you can see her painting a canvas, and it's a blank canvas, and she has red paint on the brush, and it's like, is it red paint? Is it blood? And she's just looking back at the viewer with her mouth open as if she's about to speak, but then she doesn't. So the painting became very, very famous. There was a gallery in Soho where she used to do exhibitions. So there was a huge queue. People wanted to go and see what the murderer had painted. And Theo is one of the people that 6 years ago he went and he saw it, and it just really stoked his curiosity. So we jump forward to now, where Theo has found an open position at the Grove, at that mental institution where Alicia is, and he's like, yes, I'm gonna take this as my chance. I'm gonna be the one to make Alicia talk. I'm gonna be the one to help her. He gets the job. He also introduces himself at this point a little bit. You can see that he had a very rough childhood. His father had a personality disorder, undiagnosed, so basically it was just a really, really shitty father that was beating him and his mom, and it was not a good home environment at all. When he got to college, he couldn't let go of all the thoughts and the voice in his head of his father saying that he was a failure and that he would never do anything, and he actually tried to take his own life by doing an overdose of paracetamol, but it didn't work. And then he decided, actually, like, I shouldn't be taking my own life. I should continue and try to do something for myself. So he searched for help, and he found a therapist called Ruth, and she really helped him. And that's when he started to realize the power of psychotherapy and how it can help you deal with your trauma and all your emotions and everything. And that's why he decided to become a psychotherapist himself. So he did the training, and he's been working mostly in mental institutions, hospitals, etc. So he enters the Grove. He starts his mission, which is to help Alicia, but he doesn't want to be too obvious. So he's like, is she seeing anyone? Does she have a therapist? I would love to give it a try. I would love to meet her and talk to her. And they're like, why would you want to do that? She's not going to talk. He's like, well, let me try. So in the end, he kind of manipulates people a little bit to get what he wants, because he thinks that he can do it. He's a little bit arrogant in that sense, where he believes that where everybody else has failed, he can succeed. He gets to meet Alicia. He talks a little bit. She doesn't talk back to him. He makes a case for putting down her sedatives, because he realizes that he's not going to get anything out of her like this. So he convinces them to take down the amount of pills that she's taking. And the first session that they have after that, she just jumps on him, tries to choke him and attack his throat. He calls the alarm. It's okay. It shouldn't have happened. It's a huge drama. But he's still persistent. He's like, it's okay. Like, of course, like, he knew that she was violent. There had been attacks between her and another patient a few years ago, usually provoked. So they knew that she was violent. That's why she was so heavily sedated at all times. But he's not deterred. He wants to continue. He wants to help her. At the same time, we start to hear more about his personal life, although he really does not mix it. So he doesn't talk about his personal life at work. He doesn't talk about work at his personal life. But we do find out that he's married to a woman called Kathy. And we find out how they first met. He's about 40-something years old. They've been married for a long time. When they first met, they were actually both in relationships. So it was a double adultery, which was a really fun way to start a relationship. But hey, it worked. They met, they fell in love. It was love at first sight, and they've been together ever since, happily married. She is an actress, an American actress, and you can see that they have a okay life. I mean, of course, they've been married for a long time. She's working late sometimes, and then one of the days when he's at home, she's at work, and he goes on her laptop to find something, and the email is open, and he finds emails between her and someone else. Like, there's just a handle name. So he realizes that she's cheating on him. So he gets very, very upset. He actually ends up going back to his therapist, even though he hadn't seen her for years. And she tells him, like, very clearly, like, you need to leave her. Like, you're not going to be able to stay in a relationship like this. It will just eat up inside of you. You're clearly very angry about this because he's spiraling. You shouldn't settle for this. This is not love. Love does not hurt like this. He goes home and he's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. It's fine. I'm just going to keep it bottled down. I'm not going to say anything. She has her secrets. I have mine, and I'll be fine. I love her. She's the love of my life. I do not want to be alone. So I'm just going to forget about it. Super healthy. I mean, he's still working with Alicia. We also start to find out a little bit more about her life because he realizes that if she's not going to talk, he still needs to get to know her. So he needs to do that by talking to the people that used to know her before the whole murder thing. So he finds her friend, John Felix, who was the manager at the exhibition space. And they talk a little bit, and you can see that John Felix was actually in love with Alicia at some point. So he obviously did not like Gabriel, her husband. But he says that they were really good friends and everything. He's really sad about what happened. But you're kind of like, this guy. So the whole story, you're trying to find out, I mean, at least for me, like, I wanted to believe that Alicia was not guilty, right? Like, she did not kill her husband. That's just what it looks like. So the whole story, I was just trying to find who was the real bad guy. And there's a lot of red herrings, as it usually happens in books like this. The red herring is when they put something flashy, like a character that looks very guilty, and they say, this guy is guilty, look at him. And it's just to distract you from the fact that this person over here is the actual guilty one. So that's a red herring, in case you didn't know. So you're trying to think like, okay, is John Felix really the bad guy, or he's just a red herring? You also meet Gabriel's brother, Max, and you also figure out that Max had a thing for Alicia, and he was in love with her, even though he was the brother of Gabriel. Gabriel was adopted, so they were not real brothers, but they still grew up together and everything. And there's a bit of tension there because Gabriel was the handsome, perfect son, whereas Max is a short guy, kind of bald, and even though he's the smart one, he was never the one to get ladies and everything. So he was in love with Alicia, and he actually assaulted her one time, and he tried to kiss her and grab her, and she very much did not like that, and she wanted to tell the truth to Gabriel, but Max convinced her not to do so. So when you are reading her journal entries, you see that she's a bit scared of Max because he's very pushy, and he tries to make sure that she doesn't say anything to Gabriel. So then you're thinking, is Max the bad guy? So Theo, the psychotherapist, he's meeting all these people. So then you start to unravel like all the trauma, everything that she went through. When she was really young, her mom died in a car accident, and Alicia was actually in the car as well. But she didn't die, only her mom died. And then a few years later, her father also died. So you start to unravel a little bit both stories. Like Alicia, you start to understand what happened to her. And you also start to understand how Theo is a bit spiraling with the whole relationship because it does not get better, obviously. At work, he's very much focused on trying to find out more about Alicia and getting a full picture of who she was as a person before the murder. And at home, he's just trying to pretend that everything is fine. He starts to follow his wife around because he knows that she's lying to him when she says, oh, I have to work late and I'm meeting a friend for dinner and I'll be home late. So one time he follows her and he actually sees her meeting up with the guy that she's seeing. They meet in a park and they have sex in the park, and he actually just sits there listening to them because he's just paralyzed and he's so angry, and he actually starts thinking about, this is crazy, this guy is ruining my life, she's ruining my life, like I would kill them both, I would kill for her, I would die for her, like how can she do this to me? In parallel at the Grove, they have a few sessions and she actually gives him her diary. So he starts to read it and he starts to understand a lot more what happened. So you can see that in the months leading up to the murder, she started to actually get quite scared because one day she was just at home painting, whatever, and then she saw a man on the other side of the road just looking at the house. And she's like, okay, this is weird. Is he looking at the house because he wants to buy it? At the beginning, she's like, it's okay, it's fine, I'm just being paranoid. But then she starts to get really scared because she sees the man several times. And sometimes he's far across the street, sometimes he's closer. One time he's actually just outside her house by the kitchen. So she starts to really get freaked out. And when she tells Gabriel about this, her husband, he's like, really? Are you sure? And he kind of is a bit dismissive, which is horrible. And she's like, yeah, maybe I'm imagining things. And she has a history of mental illness. And you find out that when her father first died, she also had a really hard time. She tried to take her life. And there was a point where she was paranoid and she started to imagine things. So you also don't know if she's a real narrator or not, because you are reading everything from her point of view. So of course you want to believe her, but then every time she talks to Gabriel and he convinces her to go see a doctor, the same doctor that she had talked with when her father first died, you start to think like, okay, maybe she is crazy and it's all in her head because no one else sees this man. She actually calls Gabriel one time because she thinks that she saw the man in her backyard under the trees. And when Gabriel goes there, he doesn't see anything. So you're like, oh my God, she is crazy. So it's really interesting. You're like, what is true? What is not true? And she's basically stuck at home because she is afraid for her life and she doesn't know if she's imagining things or not. The doctor had given her some pills to stop the hallucinations, but she is very convinced that they're real. So she pretends to take the pills just so Gabriel is happy, and she just throws them out. And it just starts to spiral from there as well. She actually starts to think that it might be Jean-Felix, her friend, who is not really a friend. Turns out that she had been trying to put some distance between them as well. She knew that he kind of had a thing for her, and she actually tells him that she wants to leave his gallery. She wants to take her exhibition somewhere else, and he doesn't take it very nicely. And the last time they see each other, he just goes to her and he's like, you should be careful. You shouldn't trust the people around you. Don't trust anyone. Like, people are lying to you. And she's like, what's happening? So poor woman, like, she's getting really, really scared at this point. All of this is in the diary. And then Theo, now that he has the diary, he also reads all of this. And he confronts her about it. He asks a lot of questions, and she still does not speak. He's like, okay, there's something here. There's a small detail that I'm missing that will make everything make sense. So he actually goes to see her paintings again. He sees Alcestis again, and he finds out that it's based on a Greek myth, and he reads the book. And it's very interesting because you see that the Alcestis story is basically, I forgot his name, but there was a guy. He did something to anger the gods. So his punishment was to be killed and go to hell with Hades. And they offer him the chance that someone else can die instead of him. And his wife, Alcestis, she sacrifices herself for him. She says, I don't want you to die. I will die on your behalf. And he's like, thank you so much. Great. So she is killed. She goes to hell, but one of the gods takes pity on her and he appreciates her sacrifice. So he actually goes down to hell and brings her back and takes her away from Hades and brings her back to life. And her husband is like, oh my God, so great, you're coming back to life. But then at that point, Alcestis never spoke again. And that's how the story ends, the book that Theo is reading. Alicia sees herself as Alcestis, but why? What happened here? So he starts to unravel that story, and you find out that when her mom died in the car accident, her father took it really poorly. The cousin and Alicia, they were in the roof of the house and they were listening. And the father told his sister, right, so the aunt, why did my wife have to die? Why didn't Alicia die instead? And when Theo hears this from the cousin, he's like, that's it. That's the detail that I was missing. So you realize that when her father said it should have been Alicia to die, he basically killed her. He mentally, psychically killed her. Maybe she didn't really internalize it, but when her father said that, she turned to her cousin and she said, my father just killed me. And she was like 8 years old at this point, right? Theo realizes that all of that was just building up to the moment, to the night where she killed Gabriel, where something must have happened. And it triggered that response, the fact that her father had killed her when she was younger. And she was so angry at her father that she lashed out at the other man present in her life, her husband. And that's why she snapped and killed her husband. And you're like, okay, this makes sense. You're still missing a detail. Like, why is she so angry at her husband? Like, what happened? Because the whole diary entries, you can see how much she loves him. He was a good husband. They were talking about having kids, you know. So Theo goes to the Grove again. And he's like, I know it happened. Your father killed you, blah, blah, blah. I want to help you. I want you to talk to me. Please talk to me. Just say something. And she finally talks. She says, what? He's like, what do I want you to say? And she's like, what? He's like, I want you to tell me the story. Tell me what happened. At first, she's not really talking that much. I mean, it's been 6 years that this woman has said not a peep. And she's finally starting to talk. And she explains what happened that night. One day she was painting and the man showed up behind her with a mask and a knife and threatened her and said, like, don't make a noise. Let's go into the house. You're going to sit in the living room and we're going to wait for your husband. And the whole time, this is like 4 hours, he just sat there pointing the gun at her, waiting for the husband to come home. When the husband came home, the attacker told Alicia to stay quiet and not to make any noise. And then the guy who was hiding, he just smacks him in the head. He loses consciousness. So the attacker just ties him to a chair as well. And he puts them back to back so they can't see each other. The attacker goes to Gabriel and says, Alicia's just been talking about what a nice husband you are. She loves you so much. She knows that you love her, but I know that's not true. Tell her the truth. Tell her you don't love her. And it's like, what are you talking about? Of course I loved her. It's like, no, I know you don't. Like, you've been a bad boy. You've been doing things that you shouldn't. And he's like, what are you talking about? And the attacker says to Gabriel, someone will die tonight and you get to choose who. Are you going to die or do I kill your wife? And Alicia's like, no, don't say that. Don't do that. I love you. I'll die for you. No, leave him alone. And the attacker's like, come on, make a decision. You have 10 seconds to make a decision. Who's dying tonight? Is it you or is it your wife? And Gabriel's like, oh, no, I don't know. And then he just says, I don't want to die. And the attacker's like, okay, so your wife it is. So by saying that, like, I don't want to die, he's making a decision. So inadvertently, her husband has just killed her again, psychically. And she doesn't say anything. The attacker goes around to see Alicia and he points the gun at her. She closes her eyes and she's like, what the fuck just happened? Like, yes, I'm dead. Like, this is it. I'm about to die. But the attacker points the gun at the ceiling and shoots. And then Gabriel's like, no, Alicia, what are you doing? But he doesn't know that the attacker shot at the ceiling. He thinks that Alicia just died, and he's freaking out. He's like, no, what have you done, Alicia, my love? No, what have you done? And Alicia's just sitting there looking at the attacker, like, and she doesn't say anything because the attacker's like, and the attacker takes her wires out. So he releases her, puts the gun down and leaves. And he's like, my work here is done. And Gabriel's just crying, like, no, my God, what have I done? What have I done? And Alicia's just sitting there like, how could he do this to me? Like, I thought he was the love of my life. And he just he just killed me, right? So she gets really fucking angry. She turns around and sees him and he's like, oh my God, you're alive. And she picks up the gun and just shoots him in the face 5 times. Yes. So that is the whole story, but you're missing the plot twist here, right? So let's go back to the point where Alicia's finally talking at the Grove and she's telling Theo Faber this whole story, but she lies. She tells him that the attacker got there, Gabriel got in the house, and the attacker just shot him 6 times and left. And Theo's like, why is she lying to me? I know that she's lying to me. Like, it's a fact that it was only 5 shots, he was sitting down, so he knows because of the reports and because of the story that she's lying. So he's getting really angry, like, why is she doing that? And he's like, okay, is that everything you have to say to me? She's like, there's one more thing, I'll tell you tomorrow. The next day he comes to work and they find out that she had an overdose and she is basically in a coma. She'll never wake up again. And he's like, what the hell happened? She got some pills and she overdosed and everyone believes that story. But then when he goes to say goodbye to her, he holds her hand and he sees that there's a pinprick from a needle. And he realized that someone has attempted to murder her with a high dose of morphine. So he's like, no, this is not true. She did not kill herself. Someone tried to kill her. And he actually thinks that it's his colleague, Christian, who he finds out at some point was the doctor that was seeing her earlier on. He was actually a friend of Gabriel, and you're like, this is the bad guy. He tried to kill Alicia. He tried to make her think that it was all hallucinations and that she was crazy and tried to give her pills. And he's been the one pressuring Theo not to help Alicia while he's at the Grove. And they realize that he's the killer, or he's the one that tried to kill her. And they call the police and they take him away. And you're like, okay. Last entry of the diary is Alicia saying, I have to write this as fast as possible. Theo just came into my room. He grabbed the needle and he stuck it into my hand. So I know I don't have long, but I have to say the truth. Yes, I was lying yesterday. I am guilty, but so is he. Because I recognized him the moment he entered the Grove and the moment he started working here. I recognized him as the man who was looking outside my window, the man who stalked me, the man who attacked me, and the man who told me to stay quiet while he waited for Gabriel. He's the man that forced Gabriel to choose between his life and my life. And he's the man that left the rifle there for me so that I could kill Gabriel. And you're like, what the fuck? And then the last chapter is Theo. And you realize that all the chapters he was talking about his personal life were 6 years ago. It was 6 years ago that he found out his wife was cheating on him. It was 6 years ago that he followed her, found her having sex with a man, and started to follow the man because he was so angry he was ready to kill the man. And he followed him all the way to his house where he saw him get there, see his wife, kiss her hello, and have dinner with her. And then he came back to the house day after day after day because he was so certain, like, I need to warn this woman. She doesn't know that she's being cheated on. She doesn't know that her husband is a liar and a cheater. I need to make her see clearly. I need to help her. So the whole time it was him outside her door, looking at the house, trying to decide when to go in and tell her the truth. But instead of doing this like a normal freaking person, because he's also crazy, and then you start to piece it together. I think he's a sociopath. I don't know. But he decided to go into her house and finally attack her, right? So it was true. There was no hallucinations. It was him the whole time. And all he wanted was to make her see clearly and help her, which is what he's been saying the whole book, right? That's why he's so obsessed with her. And the whole reason why he wanted to go to the Grove and become her psychotherapist is because he wanted to help her see clearly and help her talk and understand what happened. And he says, I didn't want her to kill him. I just wanted her to understand what a liar he is and that he doesn't truly love her. I didn't expect that when I left the house, she would have killed him. So that's the plot twist. The book ends with the police actually finding her diary and her belongings. And this is the last thing that she wrote before she died, because she knew that he tried to kill her to keep her quiet, of course, because he realized that she was lying for a reason. It's because she was planning to tell the truth about his involvement. So he went in and he killed her, and she wrote this down on the diary. She wrote that it was Theo that night. And the police goes to his house and they say, we have found a diary and you are now under arrest for attempted murder of Alicia Berenson. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It was really fun. There was a lot of red herrings and twists, but made it to the end. If you still want to read the book, I recommend it. It was a quick read, very entertaining. And that's it for today. See you next time.